Christina, do you mind turning on your mic so I can make sure they work? Can you hear me? Mm.
Can you hear this? We can't hear you.
Thank you, Jill. I can hear you.
Okay, so you're good?
Yes, I'm good. I can hear everybody. So
All right.
as usual, you're amazing.
Hey, Austin, you have
Yeah.
that audio box blocking the screen. If you can close it. The settings box is open. All right, there you go. Bye.
Thanks, Jill.
Twice. They
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay, good. Before we get started, make sure your microphones are on. That way I'll be able to hear what
Are
they're saying.
Are you sick?
No, I am in Washington State. It's 5 o'clock here, almost 6 o'clock.
When are you coming home?
I'll be back on Thursday.
Oh, geez. Okay.
I'll be back at work on Thursday. I'll be home tomorrow night. And John, you're good to start whenever you're ready. But again, I can't hear anybody if your mic's not on.
There. Now it's
All right, can you hear me now? All right. I'd like to call to order the Village of Marvin Parks Recreations and Greenways Board meeting here on Tuesday, January 3rd at 9 a.m. First item is to determine if we have a quorum, and with myself, Bob, Christina, and Jennifer, we do, along with our council liaison, Kimberly Vandenberg. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Any comments, additions, deletions, or anything like that? All right. Austin, I didn't see a change here, but I did send back a note about adding just kind of a recap of the Christmas. Does that fall under one of these other items?
I didn't get anything, John. I don't know if that email went through, but Derek can just do it in his public facility manager's update. You don't need to amend the agenda for that.
Okay, sounds good. So then do I hear a motion on the table to adopt the agenda as it is written? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the previous minutes, and in our packets, we had our minutes from December 6th at 9 a.m. Any questions, additions, or deletions to those minutes?
Nothing for me.
Do I hear a motion on the table to adopt the December 6th, 2022 minutes as they are written?
So moved?
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, and I don't see any public on the meeting, and I did not see anybody sign up, so we don't have any public comment. Item number B, letter B, is public facility managers update. So if you can provide us with that, Derek?
Yeah, good morning. Just a few quick updates for you. The Village Hall landscaping plan, I've submitted for a number of bids. I think that's due to council later this month. But just, I've gotten started on that, and the master plan is coming along well. They brought back just a few initial sketch ideas, and those are going to be kind of more formalized in the next week or so, and be brought to you guys at very soon, probably the next meeting. That's all I really have as far as those things. Any questions on those two items?
And the only thing that I think when I was just questioning Austin, anything specific to come out of the Christmas?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm going there.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't at the event, so I was actually gonna let Jill give a summary, but I don't see her. Do you mind?
She was over there.
Okay.
Yeah, she's been through.
We're gonna de-decorate on Thursday, if anybody,
That's exactly what it is.
if anybody
They're doing it here today.
feels inclined to come hang out in the barn. But, no, I heard it went well. I heard it was,
Our only problem was the electrical, plugging in all those coffee makers.
It's the
and everything. We kept
urns.
blowing the box.
did you?
Yeah, that was actually a problem a number of years ago
Yeah.
when we went the urn way.
I remember the Keurigs doing it. I didn't remember the urns being a problem.
Like, it was hard to tell which was doing it, but,
Yeah,
so we started plugging them into different,
yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, like they're all
Breakers.
labeled, so the breakers, you just have to try to run extension cords around so they're not pulling off the same ones, really. But, so it was a little mix and match with that, but.
but we did have hot drinks. They were hot, not
Good.
warm. That's her. And it was.
Jill, Derek was just gonna leave it for you to make some comments as far as the Christmas event. And we were just talking, the power issues we had with the coffee urns, but
Oh my
other than
gosh.
that, it's pretty smooth.
So you didn't want to think about that, did you?
Well, I mean, I've been saying all along the coffee and hot chocolate was going to be the bane of my existence that night, and it was, but we finally got it working. I think the event went great. I think it was the right amount of people. It was definitely less attendance than we'd had at our last few events, but I think that was the goal. We didn't really seem to have a crazy parking issue, which I was hoping to avoid. And I think the amount of people that were there was very manageable for us to be able to service everyone coming through that wanted cookies and hot chocolate. We did run out of hot chocolate, but we were able to get more. I think if it was any bigger of an event, it would have been extremely stressful on us doing coffee and hot chocolate because having only one sort of container that both brews it and keeps it hot, you sort of are stuck either like we run out and then we wait and we're out for a little bit while we brew and heat up a whole new batch, which could take a long time. Or what we were trying to do, at least with the hot chocolate, was just keep adding some water to it, enough to like replenish without cooling it down too much that people were getting warm chocolate instead. So, I mean, I think with the numbers we had, it was manageable, but anything more than that, I would have been super stressed out. So,
Let me make a comment or a question too, I guess. What is the objective of the tree lighting? I was under the impression that when we do these events, it's to engage the community and to get as much of the community involved as we can. So the question then becomes, if we want to self-limit, that's fine. If that's an objective, then we self-limit. But if we want to engage the community, then do we, one, have the personnel? Two, do we have the budget? And then how do we do that? I think there's two separate things we're looking at here. One is self-limiting, the other is to engage as many people as we can to get our community come in together. So what are your thoughts on that?
Can I interrupt and say that, what are your thoughts? Because this is, this event and all of our events in years past have been board driven. And, I think it's unfair sometimes for, well, I won't say unfair, but like, what are you looking for from staff? Because,
Well, here's what I'm.
or how do you define engaging the community? I mean, everybody could have a different definition, but if I go and plan something or Jill goes and plans something and our vision's not what aligns with the boards, and then you come back, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? So what are you guys looking for?
Well, I'll speak for me. When I think of a marketing program or any engagement program, I have never done one to self-limit. Never.
To self-limit?
Yeah.
What do you mean
Where
by that?
you minimize activity. Like when I was with Pepsi in charge of marketing, if I would have self-limited a marketing program, I wouldn't have been with Pepsi another hour.
I understand what you're saying. I think we're on the same page, you and I.
So my point is only that if we're going to spend the time as PRD, and we're going to spend the time coming up with programs, and we agree to do a program, be it the tree lighting program or any other program, that we make that as successful as we can. Now that success could be, to Jill's point, something where we're going to target young people. We're going to target young children. And by the very nature of that, we're going to limit the audience. Or we may make it more of a macro event that engages both adults and children. And then all of a sudden you've got a much bigger platform, very much like Marvin Day. So the question is, or my response to Derek would be that if we're going to continue to do the tree lighting, that we make that as effective as we can, and whatever our target is, we maximize that target, if it's children or whatever. But that's my feeling.
Well, the one thing that I kind of think of is, I think when self-limiting, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm thinking self-limiting is applying more to that, specific factor of what do we have for parking capability, really?
Right.
That's your bottleneck.
Because that's our, we could have a much greater event if we had busing or things like that, where, the park itself can accommodate. But I think the self-limiting factor really came to, what are our capacities to be able to hold?
Well, that was my point.
Yeah.
If you've got labor, if you're confined by labor, or confined by budget, or confined by park, whatever that is, then you manage to that, or you solve against it. If you say that well, parking's an issue, then how do we solve against that? And do we have the money, or do we even want to solve against it? So as we do these programs, I would really like us to think through that and not just say we're going to do the tree lighting.
Well, I think you're correct on all fronts. We don't have as much staff to throw the size events that you see taking place down in Waxhaw. We just don't. And we have a lack of volunteers. We don't have the budget to do that either. And we don't have the parking. So in
But
the
other than that, we're
future,
in good shape.
in the future, if, maybe there'll be an opportunity to relocate the tree lighting to the Heritage District, depending on what that looks like and what kind of parking would take place there. Who knows? But for right now, I think the other concern was our events and the way we were marketing them, because I have a marketing background too. So I'm like you, I'm like, the bigger, the better, the more, the merrier. But the issue with that is we believe we were attracting a lot of people from outside of Marvin. So the conversation that was had after the tree lighting, after the trick or treat event was, we really want these events to invite Marvin residents in. So we focused on advertising our marketing efforts to residents through our residents list, through our Facebook and social media posts that mostly only our residents follow. Very few people outside of that follow us. And that was done intentionally to make sure that Marvin residents would benefit from the tax dollars that are going to the event, and that they would have the ability to find a parking spot and not show up for their own tree lighting in the village of Marvin, and it's full with people from Monroe and Waxhaw and everywhere else who wanted to come for some free hot chocolate and cookies. So it really depends on who you're targeting. And if you want this to focus on Marvin residents, then I think we go about it the way that we have been. If you want it to include outside communities, then you're going to have to get a bigger budget for us, more staff, more volunteers, and
More
shuttle
taxes.
buses, which is just going, because we can't add more parking to the park.
Right.
We can do shuttles, but they're not cheap. So if you'd like to talk to council about raising taxes, maybe we'll have a bigger budget for these
Well, no, I
events.
think this is the discussion we should have on every event. This very about the labor constraint, budget constraint, parking, so on and so forth, and then manage to whatever the expectation is. Agreed.
But I also think the board needs to be in unison on who you want your target audience to be. If you
Absolutely.
want it to be, let's get as many people from surrounding communities and invite them into Marvin, then that's a different strategy. If you want to focus on Marvin residents, that's a different strategy. So you guys will have to decide that as a board and report back to us, and then we can let you know what we can do to try to accomplish your goals that you've agreed on.
Yeah.
You're
One other comment I had is kind of relooking at the structure of the schedule, I think, because we ended up kind of moving it forward again. And some of that, we didn't have the band this year, but also, it kind of seems to happen in waves, and then everything's waiting till that moment, but then it becomes anticlimactic in a way at the very end there, and we move kind of the times up. So I think, maybe if we take a little different look at the schedule again, I think all the events that we did were good. I mean, for however few dollars, those Oriental training, little tchotchkes, and the kids loved them,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it kept them busy, and the hot chocolate and cookies. So, I think there's a lot of good things around it, but I think maybe trying to figure out a way to keep them engaged through a schedule to the end and figure that out better.
Yeah, I think possibly the tree lighting could happen at some point in the middle of the event instead of at the end. Because it did seem like everyone was just kind of standing around like, okay, when are we going to light it up? And then Councilman Line was like, okay, people are starting to leave and go home. Can we just light it early?
Yeah.
Which we did. But I agree. I think there's a way to probably light it up in the middle and then continue to have people, because once it's lit up, it's also so pretty in there. So we could continue to have music and maybe the chorus and
Or maybe the choir goes after
After-
that, because
after that.
has its own group that comes and follows them too.
yeah, I will say the only frustrating thing about the choir was the parents of the choir singers were walking around shushing everybody in the barn because they wanted to take videos of their kids singing. And it was a little bit awkward because it is a social event. People are getting cookies and hot chocolate. People are talking. And it's wonderful that we have music and people are singing. But it wasn't like a performance in the school theater where everybody should be like quiet as a mouse. And they were literally walking around telling people to shush. So maybe setting an expectation with the choir and with the parents that like, it's a community event. People are going to
Yeah.
be doing crafts and cookies and expecting them to be quiet is not really realistic. But I think also maybe incorporating the choir to invite people in the audience to join in for some of the favorite Christmas songs
Mhm.
could be really cool, especially after the tree is lit.
Too loud.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we'll like we can have them sing some songs, but then I think it would be awesome if they would invite the audience to participate and sing as well. That'd be really
think that'd be
fun, a fun
Yeah.
kind of component to it. So
Whoever, John, I don't know if you talked to the choir or chorus or whoever it was, but yeah, I mean, it is not like a silent concert. Like, it is not like
Yeah.
we're in an auditorium. I was like, if one more parent turns around and shushes me while I'm talking to Jamie about like the schedule,
I was holding her back. She was rolling up her sleeves.
I was not happy. I mean, I was just like, we're not in an
Yeah.
auditorium. This is not a professional situation. Like, everybody needs to relax and the parents need to, the choir person
Well,
needs to.
and I
stop.
didn't even notice that because I
Yeah.
was kind of upfront with them.
It was- I mean, it's not your
And I don't think
fault.
it was them. I think it was more the
Oh,
parents
it
in
was
the back.
100%
They
the
wanna get the
parents.
But
Yeah.
I think that whoever is talking to the choir person, they need
Yeah.
to set the expectation with the parents that there are little kids running around. There are other things
Yeah.
going on. Like, this is a fun opportunity for them to get an additional chance to perform.
It's called public.
Yeah.
They're in public.
Public.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think that's a hard, she, Olivia,
Right.
who does the choir, they love doing it because it is a chance for them to kind of showcase something in front of their parents outside of that.
Yeah.
And it's, it's just another, they got to announce that this week it came that their winter concert was that coming week. So they were able to kind of promote that too. So I think that's a pretty simple and probably a note that she sends out when they announce it internally to the parents and stuff.
I would say the only other thing, just to get on record, I don't know if I'll be involved in this next year, but the one sort of hiccup we had was, and Kim can probably speak to this too, there was I don't think, when the mayor wasn't able to be present, I don't think it was clearly communicated who would speak in his place and what they would say. So Kim had an expectation that she was going to speak and like announce the tree lighting, and she had a whole thing she was going to say. Councilman Line thought that he was going to do it.
Oh,
And so there was just, it wasn't handled well, and I don't really care whose job it was, but just noting to self, like, hey, if the mayor's not going to be there one season, we need to have clear communication on who is going to speak.
Plan B. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, he could
Yeah.
have been planning to be there and then something happened and he couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
I've been on this South.
and something happens
Just a
too
reminder.
where I think there was some confusion about when Jamie, because I know, what, was it you, Jill, that wrote down some things for Jamie? And then I think he kind of jumped the gun on that earlier than I thought we were going to bring him up to do it. And then it seemed a little bit out of whack, but yes.
Schedule.
Yes.
That's easy.
Well, we had a schedule, but he did go early. I'm not sure
Yeah.
why.
Schedule, you stay on it.
But it's okay. It was a great event. Thank you to everybody who was there. Thank you to your wife for helping with the crafts.
The weather was nice for us too.
Oh,
It's like
right.
Christmas weather.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I didn't like the weather that night. Well, we had to,
And 75 doesn't go together.
yes, but we also had to scramble last minute and get a bunch of heaters because it was freezing cold. So thankfully, we were able to get a bunch of extra heaters for outside and inside the barn. So it worked out well,
The
but
kids had a wonderful time. That's
They
what
did.
matters.
Mhm.
Kim, what was the attendance for the parade?
It was light. I'd say we got more people excited as we were driving down the roads, honking and waving than going through the actual neighborhoods. I know Austin got some blowback on not posting exactly where Santa was when he was going to be there, and not happy that we weren't like, oh, they're coming into whatever neighborhood now.
Like the
I mean, like NORAD.
Santa
I was
tracker.
like, we're not NORAD, like, relax, people, like,
Yeah.
stand outside, you know about when we were leaving. It was pretty light. I mean,
Yeah.
my neighborhood had quite a bit. Firethorn, a couple of corners had some people. Marvin Creek was pretty light. Weddington Chase, I don't think had anybody outside. Oh, they actually had a decent amount up at the clubhouse. In Weddington Chase. Preserve, Blight. I mean, there weren't a lot of people actually out in the neighborhoods.
Play music or anything as you're going through?
I mean, the fire truck is doing that. We had music in my car that we were singing along to, having a
You can't
good
hear it from the road. My mother filmed you guys going
Yeah.
by the small side of the preserve.
Okay,
And if you'd have blinked, you'd have missed it.
yeah,
There's a fire truck, the convertible,
Yeah.
and it's done.
yeah. I mean, it's not like it's not a long processional.
Yeah.
I mean, is she over here? The one?
Yeah, she's on
Golden
the
Bell?
Golden Bell.
So obviously Main Street, so we weren't going as slow as if we were.
No,
like,
you weren't cruising.
No, yes.
You were moving because you guys were.
We're on the
getting to
main road,
neighborhood.
yes.
Totally got that. But yeah, I mean.
But I
it's-
will say that we got more people like, like honking and waving as we were driving down the road because they saw the fire truck and the police, the sheriff's car, so they pulled over. And then they're like, oh, it's Santa. Like, we had more people excited about that than,
So
The neighborhood.
here's my thought.
I mean,
Well,
I had a blast doing it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
so I think this thing was a major hit during COVID. You know, that's what really drove the reverse parade thing, bringing the parade to the people. I wonder, maybe to Bob's point, more of a focused community engagement. If in lieu of that, if we didn't switch to some utilization of this building, and then my initial thought was like a breakfast with Santa, where we had appointments and waves, and kids came in and made a craft, and then got to go in the back and hear a story from Santa or from his elves, and then, you know, maybe go through and meet Santa.
Reading a
you know.
book would be like the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
Yeah,
Would be
yeah.
awesome.
So in lieu of maybe the chaos of that afternoon, right up to the tree lighting, you know, doing something that morning, you know, and targeting the Marvin families.
I mean, I'm
with
fine
kids.
changing it.
I'm just throwing out,
Yeah, I was gonna say that we did not have that many people standing outside. And
Right.
it's probably because we did it originally during COVID.
yeah.
Yeah, during COVID, that was a thing to do,
We
that
just-
you couldn't do anything
Yeah.
else.
Mhm.
We just didn't have that many. And I will say, as much as I enjoyed Santa, he was not the friendliest Santa.
Yeah.
I mean, I was more, hey, Merry Christmas. And we occasionally got a ho, ho, ho out of him. So,
Wow.
Grumpy Santa.
That's sort of the job description, yeah?
Yeah.
Gotta wear the suit and.
Austin knows.
Sound like-
Austin and I were louder than Santa was. Yeah.
Best elf.
Where's your hat?
Yeah.
Santa came straight from working a whole day at the mall too. So there was a
Oh,
point where he
he
was
was
sitting in the
done.
chair.
I'm done.
He was like literally sitting in the chair, just looked so tired and done at one point that I was like, Santa, are you ready to go? I think everybody's had their picture taken already. And he was like, well, I need a ride. I think he needed a ride back to his car or something. I was like, oh yeah, sorry. He looked very beat.
If we're gonna do a brunch or a breakfast or something, which I actually think is a great idea. And I think have like maybe two sign up times and no, that we can't, you know, charge some money for it.
Yeah.
You know,
$5 donation to,
$10. I mean, whatever, like we can figure that out, but I don't think that's a terrible idea, but we need to make sure we get a nice jolly old fella.
Maybe we should start looking for one now.
Well, the guys from the fire department said that there's a Monroe firefighter who does it every year. And I don't know who that is, but the guys that were here on the truck were like, oh, you guys should totally call
Oh, I'm calling
whoever.
now.
And
Yeah, I would book
I
it
mean,
if
we know-
if we know a good one.
I mean, we know when we're gonna have it. I mean, we know what day it's gonna be. So I mean, if we want to go ahead and like reserve him, we might as well.
Yeah, can't hurt.
So,
Solve that.
Yeah,
But
but
that's just-
if we know the day and we know we're gonna have a Santa, it doesn't really even matter.
It doesn't even matter what he's gonna have to do. He's
Yeah.
ready to be there in the suit with a smile.
yeah, just all day.
Yeah.
So Derek, if you, I don't know who, I mean, I'm sure somebody at the Wesley Chapel Fire Department can tell you who they were talking about. I don't know the guys' names that were here.
We could have a Santa contest. That would just be fun for us.
No more,
Santa auditions.
no more contests. I'm over the contest.
Bob, you could just grow a beard for us, right? And
I can do that.
Bob Markleese wants to do it. We'll dye his beard and get him a suit.
The same stuff you spray on a tree to make it all white.
You flock him.
We'll flock him. Tell him that's what we're gonna do.
All right, thank you, Jill.
thank you.
Thank you.
I love that idea.
Derek, anything else on public managers update?
That's it.
Okay.
We did put some speed bumps in at the park per council's approval. We now need boulders because people just drive right around them.
They're in a hurry to get to the park.
Derek, are you serious?
I'm so serious that it's, can't even laugh about it. As Silvio said, you can't make this stuff up.
I bet he didn't say that exactly. I bet he said something else.
No, that's what he said in the
Okay.
text message.
With that little smile, but
Mhm.
shake his hand.
So they're just hauling hiney and just going into the grass?
In all this mud too. I'm sure that looks.
The tire tracks
Yeah.
show the evidence.
Do we have an opportunity for some like motion cameras?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, that really chaps it.
that's what I said.
What?
Spikes, boulders, pillars, you know,
Ditches.
ditches.
I like ditches.
I'm afraid if they're really that determined not to go over a speed bump, even a boulder, they're just going to pull out
Oh,
wider.
they got those big old SUVs.
Well, thankfully, there's only so far you can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the location, so I don't know what
Yeah.
the constraints are.
Super.
But
Lovely.
maybe depending if I need money for something. But Silvio and I are going to meet today and discuss
Brainstorm.
brainstorm. All right, I'm done.
Certainly not gonna plant anything around them. They'll just run those over too.
Yeah.
Make you sad.
Something large and.
Unfinished business, Austin, we're not listing anything here, so nothing. All right.
That means we finished everything, is what that means.
Yeah, that never.
Okay.
never
Yeah, that's like
stays
when they
around
were
here.
price tag, it's free.
New business, discussion of replacing screening around the Village Hall parking lot.
All right. So as I drove in this morning, I confirmed again that pretty much everything that had been installed is dead, with the exception of maybe 3 hangers on.
They're sketchy.
Yeah, they're pretty sketchy. My original thought was that more of them hopefully would survive. But given that the whole thing's going to be replaced, included in your packets was a PDF or a JPEG of the plan that I have here. Really, it's very simple in concept. My only problem with the original plan that the landscapers included was that it's a monoculture screen, meaning that it's all the same kind of plant, all down the same side, which presents problems that if you have 1 or 2 plants that die, they get replaced with smaller specimens, and the whole thing perpetually looks a little messy, or,
And even the fact that they're all probably the same age, they're
Yeah.
probably all gonna go, I mean, I'm looking. way
yeah, they're
back.
gonna grow
They're
at
gonna
12 different
die.
rates.
Yeah, but they're gonna die at the same time too. Like
If-
Leland cypress has a short lifespan.
Yeah, exactly. And so, just not in philosophy, a fan of monoculture screens. And so, what I proposed is actually keeping the same plant that they used originally, which is the green giant arborvitae, which is usually pretty reliable and drought tolerant once established, but breaking those up. So given that the deciduous trees that were on the original plan have been planted, which is sort of an alternating scheme of dogwoods and there was supposed to be Chinese elm and maples. I don't know if the species that were called out on the landscape plan were actually the ones planted, because right now it's winter and my plant identification of bare branches is a little shaky. But assuming that those all stay, I simply proposed putting the green giant arborvitae, because they have the smaller circumference, behind the larger trees that were already planted. And then interspacing between those with other evergreens, broadleaf evergreens like magnolias. Well, the broadleaf evergreen would be the magnolia and in two kinds, your typical southern magnolia and then also a sweet bay magnolia, just for some difference. And then a couple of other evergreens to break it up and change the color scheme a little bit. With the adoption of the landscape plan for around Village Hall, there are some blue tinted evergreens at the corners. And so I proposed incorporating a couple of those into that screening plan to bring that color of foliage out there. And then also as a sort of a statement piece at the sort of the front end, blue Atlas cedar, which are pretty majestic and have sort of a
Architectural feel.
yeah, they have sort of an architectural feel that, yeah, that would sort of be a beautiful statement piece out at the front. They have a big spread later in life, very elegant. And then to sort of mirror that shape a little further down is a deodar cedar, but in a gold tone to sort of add some color interest, even though they're all just evergreen. So that's the long story of the plan. And you can see it for yourself on in your packet.
That's generally a lot healthier because to your point about if disease comes in, it's not gonna take them all out. If that is a problem, hopefully that will never be a problem, but just in case. They just manage they'll look better longer.
That is my plan, yes.
Yeah. I know he's not a big fan of magnolias, but in that context, they're wonderful.
Well, and there are only two of the southern magnolias. They do have a lot of leaf drop, but this is behind the parking lot and shouldn't require a whole lot of upkeep. So,
But they're great for screening.
they are great for screening, especially if the branches, if the canopy doesn't get raised, they keep that low.
Yep. We have some at the park in the garden and they smell fantastic.
Well, that's the other plus, yeah. So anyway,
And Sweet Bay stay,
they're semi-evergreen.
oh, okay.
So with the super duper cold snaps that we just had, I have one that's lost about half of its leaves, but there's still some hanging on, and in a more mild winter, it should stay evergreen.
And they just stay smaller. The leaves are smaller, everything, right?
Yeah, it's a smaller tree, generally speaking overall, depending on which southern magnolia you're comparing it to, right, obviously. But the noteworthy thing, the reason I threw one of those in there is that where the southern magnolia has that olive green and the brown back and its big leathery thick look, the sweet bay magnolia has a thin leaf that is bright green.
Okay, so it's more like a bay.
Yes, it's like a bay. It has a much larger than a bay laurel
Yeah,
leaf,
but-
obviously, but it has that bright green color and looks a little less, olive winter drab kind of thing. So if it hangs on to some of those leaves in the winter, you get at least one like bright spot of,
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like the mix and match.
Jen, this
Yeah.
is all the landscaping on the northern side?
Yeah, this is just to replace the row of green giant arborvitae that were planted and are all dead.
All right, so my two questions, yeah, I got it. I was just double checking. Sorry. Thank you. Would there be any concern with potential development of that property that stuff needing to come down or be altered and yeah.
My understanding is that the screening was required, so we have to have something there,
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna have to put
regardless
something
of
up,
what
like-
happens on the other property.
Yeah, like right now, like we're not in compliance with our own ordinance. So we have to put up something, which question number one, does this satisfy that? So we don't want to make sure Hunter looks at this before it comes to
Yes.
council.
Yes.
And so that's my first question. Does it satisfy our own ordinance in terms of screening? And then number two, underneath the existing oaks, I think we had planted azaleas.
Oh,
or-
I did leave those blank because I did want to thank you, forgot about that.
Those are pecans, right?
I don't know. It says oaks on the plan. I don't know.
I had oaks, but I think that might be an artifact from, because the original landscape plan that I have, they didn't survey
Pecan.
them. I know one's a pecan. I don't know if those are oaks.
Whatever's right
Whatever
here.
those two giant things are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was originally rhododendrons that were planted under there.
Yeah.
God, don't waste your time.
Yeah, and I hear from all of the local landscapers that rhododendrons are extraordinarily picky around here. Like, if you plant it in the right place and it's happy, it'll be the size of a house, but most of the time.
30 years ago, it'd be happy, but it's not happy anymore. It's too hot.
Yeah, so I hear those are just a gamble. I did not specify a plant for there. I have several different options as possibilities.
Are you talking close under the trees?
Yeah.
Well,
We need some under something there.
Why do we want
that was
something
the only
under a
problem,
tree?
Is that under the trees, the tree roots are so dry, nothing is going to survive.
Yeah.
So we need to pull those, if we need a screen there, it needs to be pulled way forward, in which case that changes your lighting. You're now no longer talking about a shade plant. You're now talking about full sun on the southern side of those trees.
Why do we have to have something there?
The screening.
At the base of the
We
trunks,
gotta
I
have
understand.
something. Yeah,
Why wouldn't you leave it natural?
Why do we?
because there's nothing there now. And for our ordinance, we have to have like a certain amount of screening between properties.
Can you show us on this plan where you're talking?
Yes. Yep, go look, go walk out the door. I mean, go
So
look at the door.
these two giant trees,
Yes.
straight out from the entrance,
Okay.
they originally just had they had about 6 rhododendrons
Oh,
on
okay.
plan right at the base of the trees.
I think talking about out front. Okay, got it.
No, so where these tree trunks, because obviously the canopy is really high, there is a gap
Oh, yeah.
between here and here that is not getting screened.
Mhm.
So we need to bring these plants
Oh, yeah.
forward. This is just in pencil, and I obviously didn't specify a plant material, because I am open to suggestions.
What would be wrong with a viburnum?
If we're moving it out in front, a viburnum actually would probably be a great choice. My only concern with a lot of the plants that I thought about for this is that viburnums and buttonbush and a whole bunch of others prefer moist soils.
Vaccinium, blueberries, not what you eat, but
Yeah, no, big bush
Yeah.
blueberries. Yeah, might be a good,
they're beautiful.
and they can handle more drought.
Do we have room, instead of coming forward towards the parking lot, do we have room to go behind them?
They are right on the property
Are they?
line.
Okay.
In fact, the trunks might even straddle the property line.
But if you put some biggish shrubs in front, on our side in front,
Mhm.
you'll still see them from there.
Kim, are they evergreen? I'm not familiar.
The
Blueberry.
blueberries, no,
Well, then
no.
I-
They turn a nice red though in the fall.
Yeah, so
Good to see.
looking,
You're saying you need a point,
So it has to be evergreen?
but there's nothing wrong with it.
I don't know what the ordinance says exactly, but I know that right now,
Yeah.
we have to have something. Now, can it be something that kind of goes away in the winter? I don't know.
all right, so some evergreen options would be camellias, but if we're moving them forward, that may be too much sun. Loropetalums, the big guys.
They take some.
They will take sun, they will take the drought. They're just so overused, it makes me,
They are overused.
but there's a reason they're overused. Viburnum was on my list.
there's
Large scale azaleas would potentially work.
Take tons of snow.
The other one that would be a potential good one would be osmanthus.
Tea olives.
Tea olives.
Oh, I love tea olives. I love
Great.
tea olives and they smell so
Who
good.
knows what that is?
I
She
do.
knows.
I know what a tea olive is and they smell delicious.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
cute little white flowers on them.
Yes.
I mean, it's on my very limited non-native
Which
plants.
list did you
because
like?
They are amazing.
I have them in my
I go
yard.
for that.
I know what
Okay.
those are.
Are they not the most?
They will take full sun and
The entrance like that?
yeah, I was gonna say right at the base of those
You'll
trees,
smell
a
them.
nice big,
Oh, I love
and I wouldn't hedge them. I'd let them kind of sprawl and
The
get big
good
and
thing
lovely.
about those,
Yes.
your manager.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not-
Yeah, I don't know what those are.
They grow like crazy.
Okay, if you get the big guys, yeah.
Something I know what they are.
Okay.
Makes
All
me
right.
feel, that makes me
I
feel
think
good.
that's a great option.
And there's a lot of different kinds, obviously.
I would get the non-pokiest. So, I mean, obviously the sweet olives with the least pokey. Yeah, good smell, but that also tends to go, thankfully, with the least pokey of the leaves.
See, yeah, the leaves on mine are.
I was gonna say, my leaves are not pokey.
They're
Yeah.
not.
And they have the little white flowers.
Because the rest of the osmanthus species is, yeah, you could line a penal colony with those and nobody would get out.
You probably
They're
have
really
one of
bad.
those in California. We don't have any of these anyway, but
Yeah.
there's a particular variety that UNCC sells that is supposed to be the smelliest of all of them.
I bought 2 of them at
Okay,
the
so
sale.
you know which one.
Jennifer, she wanted to know what your thoughts were on wax myrtles.
Wax myrtles, I have no specific thoughts on wax myrtles, but they are evergreen.
I have some.
I have some. I know what those are too.
I have some of them. They don't cover as well as you
Yeah, I was
want.
gonna say, I think they're a little thinner.
Now, if you really planted them on top of each other, maybe, and they would do this thing. but- And they get really tall and you don't have to do a thing to them. The color you're not gonna like, because it's a grayer kind of dull green.
That's right.
Yeah,
Kinda-
but in your mix in here, it wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't put them under that tree, because now
No,
I'm
because they'll get big.
devoted to the idea of.
I mean, I do love the tea olive.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's a problem with the wax myrtle. I think the reason I didn't have them on here is because of, I think my original thought when I saw those as an option was thinking that those were too high.
I mean, mine separate
that
that driveway,
specific-
like between my neighbors, and they are tall and they get
Yeah.
they get.
I think of them
unruly.
as trees and I was looking at shrubs for
Yeah.
for
They
this particular
grow
application.
shaped like trees, like shrubs. I would say in this, it wouldn't be bad to throw some of them in there because they are a little bit more airy. The leaves are small.
Mhm.
They're gonna give you a different,
Feel. Mhm.
just a little
Well,
open.
I don't like the leaf texture of a wax myrtle. They're a dull.
That's what I'm saying. They're a dull or
They're not very pretty.
I know Jennifer apparently likes them.
Well, no, they're native. That's why.
Well, I've
And I agree.
read about them. But I think from an aesthetic, one that you do well in a particular location. I think it's an attractive plant. And now if you want to intermix them, that's fine. The foliages are going to be totally different color.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what she's saying. This whole band is gonna be green. All the green.
All the different greens. So
All the
you've got a blue Atlas cedar at the beginning next to a magnolia, which takes you back to olives. You've got your green giant arborvitae, which is going to go back to your conifer green. Then you've got a blue juniper, and then the green giant arborvitae, a repeat of the magnolia. So you've got some rhythm. Last magnolia at the end, the blue juniper is kind of interspersed, and then you've got the green arborvitae that sort of create like your basic green and repeat regularly.
And I don't want to throw nowhere in the wrong just because you get too many people, but using any plant, I'm going to use wax myrtles just because Jennifer brought it up, but you can have too many from that. Where
Yes.
aesthetically, it just looks
Messy.
messy. It doesn't-
Yes,
You defeat your purpose
yes.
going away from the monochrome, which I agree with, to something that's.
This is, yeah, if we incorporated yet another plant, we might be getting to the onesie twosie kind of thing. I added 4 more species or 4 different types, but they repeat or they echo the same shape and color, even though they're different sizes.
Even with tea olives here, I think you're still fine.
I think we're, and because it's a shrub and it's beneath the other trees, I think we're fine with a shift right there, as long as that is a monoculture, like
This
just,
is a bit of a focal point for some reasons anyway, because when you
It's what you
come
see
in
when
this
you come out.
door, that is what you see. And so that kind of
Mhm.
That's almost where I'm gonna look, and then the rest of this just goes that way, so I
Mhm.
like that.
Okay, so I'm hearing tea olive, I'm hearing tea olive, you're going to tea olive.
I'm just looking at them because
John's
I
like, I'm
didn't
just
know what they
hearing.
were. but-
They were really nice, pretty glossy leaf, yeah, and the thing is, these smell.
Mhm.
like-
Amazing.
It's like I've never smelled anything like that in my life, it is not cloying.
People
or-
liken it to apricot, but it's not sweet and sickly like that. I don't
They should
know
make
what it
candles
smells
out of
like.
it, though.
Yeah, it smells good. Derek, you had another question. You had two questions.
They were very low.
But, I mean, you have to.
Development.
Yeah.
What do we do if it gets developed next door? And you had another one you said.
It was, it was something to do with like cost and,
Okay.
do you have any idea like what this would cost? We gonna have to go to council and ask for more money? It's
I
not
don't
gonna
know
be
specifically about costs.
I'm gonna say we're gonna bring it to council, approve it, and then go get cost.
If we go, it actually may be cheaper than the original plan because the original plan had the arborvitae planted every 5 feet, pretty much.
And not little tiny ones either.
No, I mean, they were really, really cramming them in there. How many were there?
And we're gonna.
41. There were 41 of them in that row.
Yeah, and we're getting
Called out.
money.
So we're
Ouch.
replacing, instead of 41 of those green giants,
Not a lot.
if Hunter approves this density and we don't need to add more, we're looking at 3, 6, 9, 12. We're looking at like 12 to 15 of those. And then the intervening plants are of much larger stature when mature. So you're only buying 7 additional plants. So we went from 41 down considerably in count,
25.
but we may want to invest in larger specimens.
So I would say if we're good with this, you get with Hunter, make sure he's good with it. We'll put it on our council meeting next Tuesday. Let council look at it, make sure they're good with it, and then we'll send it back to you to get quotes.
Okay.
And I would even tell whoever you've called, be like, hey,
Add this.
I got a second. I got phase 2 coming right behind.
And I still have a guy I'm trying to get a quote from. We were hoping to meet up last week, but
That's fine. I would just,
we had a conflict.
I would just show him that and tentatively be like, this is kind of,
A line item this.
yeah. But I would definitely get with Hunter, make sure it's,
Yeah, I just need to have him confirm that it's dense enough.
yeah. And then Austin, can you put that on our meeting next Tuesday?
Would check with our contact at the.
Thank you.
Yeah, to see if we can get any plants.
Any of these
Make sure
guys?
it's native.
Yeah.
I have no idea how big they are, and I have no idea what we would have to do to get them. But it's, worth asking.
Yeah,
Because we
absolutely.
could
worth
do a
asking.
trees for trash run.
Let me go ahead and call her, only
You do it.
because, only because we're looking at a major project,
Yes,
cleanup, and I was gonna talk to her about trees for trash anyway.
do it.
So if that's okay, I'll just.
That would be awesome. I mean, it wouldn't help you with the non-native stuff, but she's not gonna give us tea olives, I'll tell you.
Yeah, no.
No, it'll be trees.
Well, and they have shrubs sometimes too.
Yeah, yeah, I'll ask.
Yeah.
We'll see what we do.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I sort of stuck with the magnolias, because I mean, even though we're looking at cultivars that have been sort of changed, that's at least native in origin.
Yeah. The thing about
And the juniper.
NCWF, they like, public spaces. I mean, they want us to put,
Mhm.
they want us to put plants in public spaces.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't have many of those.
And actually,
this is
the juniper in here was developed in South Carolina by one of the universities. So in fact, it's called Carolina Sapphire.
Well, she's probably gonna have regular old Eastern.
Yeah, Eastern juniper.
I'll see what she's got.
You bet.
I'll get back.
And what we have to do to get it. What limb we have to get.
Cut off.
I'll tell you that there's a, just because of the problem, it's not on the meeting. I mentioned it to Mindy. There's huge opportunity for Marvin Creek to collect a lot of trash
Yeah,
on their greenway.
Mhm.
I mean,
yeah,
it's-
like so big.
when those creeks flood, they just bring trash, and it's just dispersed everywhere.
Yeah, but the creek behind my house brought in a pallet. I have to figure out how to disengage from the creek bed. Yeah, it's in an awkward place. And it's created a beaver dam now, so.
All right.
Have we done all we can with that?
Yes.
Item.
Yeah, we killed that
I
item.
just checked it off. All right, agenda items, letter E, review of action items. Austin, this is your specialty.
Sure. So Derek is going to get quotes for this plan. I'm going to add it to the agenda. Jen and us will get with Hunter on compliance of the plan. Derek and his guys are going to look at boulders or brainstorm on ideas so that people do not drive through our grass. I think that's it.
Okay. And then review of ongoing action item list.
All
I
right, let
don't
me
really
pull it
have,
up.
yeah, I don't really have anything to update right now, but I do have a question. Have we heard back from DOT in terms of the water study that they were doing across the street? I'm more looking at Derek, Austin, Hunter. I mean, I know he's not here, but DOT was doing a study to see how much water we were getting, to see if they could do something to kind of divert it. So has anybody heard anything about that?
I haven't heard. I think Christina would be the first point of contact with that.
Yeah.
She's the one that submitted it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's via Mike or what, but I
Okay.
can email both of them and see if,
Yeah. Austin, will you send an email to Christina and ask and copy me on it and Derek on it and ask her where we are with that? Because I mean, that's been months ago.
I want to
Because-
copy Mike too.
Because I mean, that's been months ago that we asked for that, and we've put this whole project on hold to see what they come back with, to see if they'll divert some of that water.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Thank you. That's all I had for that.
All right, board member comments.
It's a good meeting. Can I interject something in terms of an agenda item for our upcoming meeting? I would like to have an update on greenways. It's been so long since we've talked about greenways, about what the status is and where we're at, the funding that, I think we've gotten, how that's going to be applied. I'd just like an update on it, because that's a major problem, both for the community and for us. And honestly, we haven't talked about it in a while, so.
Yeah, I think
Just as a general discussion, I'd like to get comment.
it is on our action item list, and they've got it under Hunter in progress because I think he was still researching some of the funding sources for it. So maybe we'll have Hunter kind of talk about any progress on.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to back up real quick to review of ongoing action item list, we've got trail funding on there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can update you on what's going on that I know of, and then Derek can pop in. Austin, is that okay if we back up?
Sure, we're still
Okay.
It's still relevant.
Okay, so, we've got the rest of the Marvin Loop. So we've got that funding in progress, which is down Marvin Road, down Newtown Road, connecting to the preserve. Derek, I always forget, does it go down Joe Carr or no? No. How far down Marvin Road does it go? To the line? Or does it stop at Joe Carr?
I think it stops at Saddle.
Stops at Saddle.
Saddle.
Is it Saddle, Austin? Okay.
Saddle.
So we've got that in progress, and that is, I think that whole project is like 1.3, 1.4 million, and we have to pony up 40%, I think. So we're in the process of that. So where we are, that's like a 3-year long process because we got a grant for that. So Hunter has put that out to bid for the design and I think the design portion of that. So that's step one. So that's a long process only because it's federal grant money and it's just going to take a long time. So we're in the process of that. Derek, where are we with like internal trails? Preserve internal trails done.
Yeah, only one I'm working on for the rest of this fiscal year is Tullamore Phase 3. That's the one that's slated for this year. There's also the Marvin Creek connector, but that is just a conversation doesn't
the
have
one I
any.
was most interested in, because I walked up and just didn't know the status, because once we get a connector between Amber Meadow, right? Is that what you're talking about? Connecting Amber Meadows to the Tullamore Trail?
They're connected.
No, that's Tullamore Phase 3.
That we're doing.
Yeah,
That's happening this year.
that's happening.
Now, where does it go?
It connects the two.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It'd
happening.
be a phenomenal trail.
That's happening this year. We've already got, we've set aside funding for it.
Mhm.
That'd
So,
be an absolute beautiful.
so to piggyback off of Tullamore Phase 3, which will connect Tullamore Phase 2 and Amber Meadows, we're still trying to get that area kind of behind Andy's. We're working on like a connector to go in there, plus talking to that townhouse area about getting them to donate land.
One that, I don't know what the status is, but everybody cuts over the creek from Marvin Creek to Tullamore.
Mhm.
Whether anybody wants it to happen or us, irrelevant, because it happens all the time.
Right.
But it's fairly dangerous depending on when the water's up or not, and so on and so forth. And it seems like just to prevent accidents from happening, because it is used, is there any discussion with Marvin Creek as to putting up, it could be a Great Eagle Scout property?
Yeah, there is, but again, it's just a discussion at this point.
So we've got 2 discussions happening with Marvin Creek about 2 different connectors, one on this side and one on the far side. But, you know, it's their property, it's their land. And, you know, I don't know why people are cutting across there when they can't just walk down and across over the, you know, down the sidewalk. And I mean, I think, you know, again, more trails, more connections, the better, but they've got to do it. I mean, and they've got to be willing to do it because it's their property,
It'd
unfortunately.
be a Great Eagle Scout.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
yep,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. But yeah, that should just be on our, also, we should just have a greenways trail just under public facilities manager update, always just kind of a standing thing. And we should probably go ahead and add back Marvin Day as a standing thing, just to update. Cause I mean, that's like literally right around the corner. So. It is.
Lord.
Jen,
Yep.
board member comments?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Nope.
Just, I wanted to give Bob a pat on the back again, and many of you and staff for the angel tree thing, because it wasn't really mentioned, but because it ended earlier than
Yes,
the
that's true.
Christmas thing, but
That's part of my Christmas.
heard lots of good feedback
hugely
about that,
successful,
and great success, and thank you, Bob, with the original idea, and everybody for running with it.
I'm looking forward to next year and
And a bigger trailer? Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah,
Christine.
you two
and
wrap
Christine out.
bag and all that.
Then more take, more take.
And I want to thank Christina for all the help wrapping. That was a big.
That was a big do.
That was a big deal. Yeah. So.
Made my
thank-
house look neat
Thank
when
you.
I looked at all that. You're welcome.
All right, do I hear a motion on the table to adjourn the Village of Marvin Parks Recreation and Greenway meeting here on January 3rd at 9:58 a.m.?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Au revoir. Love you.
Maybe soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Bye, Austin. That's what it looks like part of the Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
With his head just,
Yeah, just this head.
he just needs 3 more people to help him out and sing.
Yes, we have our 11 o'clock.
Oh.
The moments will seem like years until you return.